After years of being the butt of internet jokes for his flaming button-up shirts and near-orgasmic glee after eating a fish taco, celebrity chef and host of the Food Network's Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, Guy Fieri, has undergone a bit of a public perception makeover. Fieri hasn't changed much over the years. What has changed is the public's tolerance for guys with wraparound sunglasses on the back of their heads where there are no eyes. A whole new generation that grew up hearing jokes about his smash-mouth exterior one day collectively realized that the mockery wasn't representative of who Fieri really was. His tireless charity work, support of the LGBTQI+ community, and his dedication to promoting small businesses across the United States might actually have made him a saint clad in a shirt of flames. But recently, even Fieri's fiercest defenders are reassessing their devotion after it was discovered that Fieri has been running his famed Flavortown nation-state with a ruthless iron fist. I'm Brian Gutierrez, and today on the feed, we're going to speak to the first person to have ever escaped the dystopic clutches of Flavortown and who gave us all our first peek into the horrors going on behind its walls covered in hubcaps and flame decals. Marjorie Dunn dropped out of college and couldn't find her place in the working world. She didn't have many friends, and she wasn't particularly close with her family. She had all but given up until she heard of Flavortown, a food utopia where anything seemed possible. She heard it was run by the affable TV chef Guy Fieri, whose shows Marjorie would watch on the Food Network growing up. When she heard Fieri was accepting new residents to Flavortown for the first time since its establishment in early 2010, she applied immediately. I didn't think I'd get in. My application wasn't impressive, and I sent it out with a hope and a prayer. And 17 stamps because shipping to Flavortown is considered international even though it's in Long Beach. Months passed. Marjorie assumed the silence meant her application was rejected. And then one day, with no forewarning, there was a knock at her door. There was a man standing there who wasn't Guy Fieri, but he could have fooled me. He was wearing everything Guy wears on his shows. He told me he would give me 30 minutes to pack up everything that was most valuable to me and meet me back at his car. It was that same Camaro Guy drives on TV. The world he promised me sounded amazing. A guaranteed job and big old pools for everyone to take a dip in. He said, pack up and then roll out, because we're looking for a utopia filled with America's greatest diners, drive-ins, and dives. And I went with him. Outside of a handful of behind-the-scenes TV specials that essentially function as state-sponsored propaganda laundered by the Food Network, much of what we know about Flavortown today has come from the Marjories of the world. Escapees whose experiences in Flavortown left them so shocked that they couldn't speak for weeks. She could only communicate through crude crayon drawings. She depicted its citizens, men, women, and children, all sporting mandated spiky bleached blonde haircuts, and all being subjected to one cruel punishment after another, usually ordered by Fieri and carried out by his most loyal foot soldiers. I remember I drew a woman, really a stick figure with boobs and a frowny face, who had broken some crazy law or some such and was sentenced to a work camp. She had to shave a 2-ton brick of cheddar down to a nub with a 1-inch wide microplane. The cheese was melted down into big vats, and the people who spoke out against their mistreatment were slowly dipped into it until their screams were drowned out by zesty cheese. Those were the pools the guy who knocked on my door told me about. What kind of man does that? I'll tell you. The kind of man that thinks formal wear is a pair of jean shorts with a 27-inch inseam. Intel gathered by American foreign intelligence agencies suggests Fieri never cooks any of the 12 meals a day citizens are required to eat, but would take offense all the same when a pulled pork sandwich wasn't heaped with appropriate praise. Forgetting to declare a meal was gangster or dabomb.com, two of Fieri's personal favorite superlatives, could lead to a weeks-long stint scraping the crust from the tubes that pipes Guy's signature condiment, donkey sauce, into gas tankers for shipment to his restaurants all around the country. Most don't survive the grueling work. I knew what my future would look like. Either a life in a sweatshop sewing bowling shirts or die in a food truck death race with hot deep fryer grease splashing around in the back. And that's if I'm one of the lucky ones. Dozens of Flavortown citizens tried to escape over the years. None were successful until Marjorie. I was desperate and maybe a little delirious from that morning's meal of a Scotch egg made of a 3-pound ostrich egg surrounded by 4 pounds of sausage. I remembered an episode of Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives where Guy said that a pizza reminded him of a manhole cover in Flavortown. Well, all over Flavortown there were pizzas drawn onto the streets. Hundreds of them, thousands of them. I thought, what if he was serious? Everyone thought Flavortown was just some dumb catchphrase until his troops annexed a golf course so he could build a country within a country, so why not street pizzas that could lead to freedom? One night, I snuck out of my bed shaped like a race car and made my way out of my assigned home decorated to look like an Irish pub and snuck my way through the streets looking for a pizza sewer. After 7 hours of traversing through a scatological nightmare, Marjorie was free, and the information she provided authorities proved invaluable. As is often the case, power-hungry despots are just as eager to tell you every detail of their evil plan as the Saturday morning cartoon villains we grew up watching. It wasn't long before the intelligence community started digging through Fieri's TV backlog, searching for details on the inner workings of Flavortown Guy may have worked into his patter between big honkin' bites of corned beef. In one episode, Guy actually, literally said, "We're taking you on a road rockin' trip down to Flavortown, where the gravitational force of bacon warps the laws of space and time." Officials initially dismissed this as incomprehensible nonsense babbled only by a syphilitic mind, but it's since been discovered that Fieri had his scientists working on a ball of bacon so large that it actually had its own gravitational pull. If you're asking why and how, don't bother. Nobody knows. The usually chatty Fieri, who's been sitting in a maximum security federal prison after the feds found him living in a grease trap for 3 months, has gone uncharacteristically silent since capture. But he did reportedly say one thing. When he was served a tray of spaghetti and meatballs as his first prison meal, a guard is said to have heard Fieri mutter something under his breath as he took a big slurp of noodles. "Dabomb.com," he said, with an approving nod. Marjorie is still recovering from the horrors wrought upon her by Guy Fieri. She tried moving back to her hometown of Myrtle Beach, but just couldn't stand it. She says all the wraparound sunglasses were too triggering. That's just one of many psychological scars she must endure that she says she'll gladly endure again if it means freeing a captive populace from the tyrannical rule of a ruthless food baron. Marjorie is a hero, and her discovery of Fieri's subtle doling out of clues opened the doors that eventually led to Flavortown's downfall. There are several lessons to be learned here, but one you should take away more than any other is that if you have an evil master plan, don't spell it out on national television. I have one. You don't hear me blabbing about it. It's a good one, too. You won't even know what's happening until it's too late. But perhaps I've already said too much. Be sure to join us next week on the feed when I tell you the whole plan, how to stop it, how to disarm the failsafe, and how I'll escape prison to wreak havoc once again. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and follow us on Twitter at InaudibleCast. The only reason we and the rest of the podcasts on the Inaudible Podcast Network continue to exist in defiance of God's will is because of the monthly contributions from our loyal and devastatingly sexy patrons. If you're butt-ass ugly and in need of a makeover, just throw some money at our Patreon every month, which you can find at patreon.com/inaudiblepod. Every penny you give makes you that much more attractive, especially to me. See you all next week.